Hi, I'm Bernitha Rena, and this is the Bernitha Rena Relates podcast. In today's episode, we're sharing the powerful story of my friend, Sister Leah, a woman born in Zimbabwe and called here to the United States for a life filled with twists and turns, from childhood memories in Africa to navigating loss and identity in a new country. Leah's journey shows us that purpose can follow you across oceans. This is Born There, Called Here. Sister Leah, I'm so grateful that you would be here today. Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you so much, my sister, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You're so welcome. First of all, just so the audience knows, we go to church together. And so my friend Leah, I will often roll into Sister Leah because that's just how I know her. So excuse me if I call you Sister Leah throughout this podcast. But before I get into how you came to the United States and just how you've made this your home, I want to hear all about what it was like growing up in the beautiful country of Zimbabwe. Can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe to a very Christian home. My mother and my dad were Christians, and I have 7 siblings. I have 5 brothers, and 4 of them were older than me, and 1 was younger, but the youngest one was only a year apart. In an African home, brothers, they are more like dads, so he felt like he was older than me. So I was always the baby of the family to some extent, and I was loved. When you have older siblings like that, they're protective, and most of the things were planned for me because my older brother was 17 years old when I was born. With older siblings, I didn't have to be responsible for anything. My parents had a farm, very big land in Zimbabwe. So by the time I was probably first grade, my older brothers were already working in the city, the mid-70s. Around 78, the war broke in Zimbabwe, and it was a civil war. The schools where we were in the village had to shut down, and I had to move. My younger brother and myself, we ended up moving, staying with my older brother and his wife. They had just gotten married, and then we stayed with them. Everything is new, so you learn new things and you're in the city. So it was great. I was so grateful that I didn't have to stop going to school because many of the kids at that time that didn't have older siblings in the city just stopped going to school because schools were closed, churches were closed, everything was closed because of the war. My young brother and myself were given that opportunity to be able to continue with education in the city because we had older siblings, and my oldest brother and his wife took us in. We had an opportunity to be in very good schools. They called them Group A schools. And my brother said, make sure that you all speak English. So we're speaking English in our home in preparation for us to be in school. Only English was spoken in this school because it was also multiracial.
Even though people probably had their own dialects and languages, but the main language was English. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. Okay.
That's where we really became very fluent in English. Even though Zimbabwe, their national language is English. In like the media, it's English. News is English. And then, of course, we speak other languages. And also, being a British colony, our country was colonized by Britain until 1980, when we got the independence. And we speak English, but British English, which is very different from American English.
Right.
In 1980, we got the independence from Britain, and Prince Charles was coming to Zimbabwe to get their flag from Zimbabwe, because at the time Britain was ruling in Zimbabwe. So of course, we always had the British flag,
right,
the Union Jack. So Prince Charles was sent to come and collect the Union Jack so that we can have our own flag flying in Zimbabwe. We were now liberated from Britain. In school, they wanted to choose students to meet with Prince Charles, welcome him just as a nation. So I got picked as one of the students to meet Prince Charles, just to welcome him, wave at him, because different schools had to send in students. I was one of those students. The reason why I had complete uniforms in Africa, most of the schools, they wear uniforms. I had the school hat, dress, I had the shoes, I had the socks, I had the jacket, and everything else. They wanted good representation. We got to meet Prince Charles, waved, and he got his flag, and we started flying our Zimbabwean flags. I was staying with my brother and his wife. I never had to go to school with no shoes, no food. I was blessed. We never suffered in any way as far as not having food or anything like that. But one thing that was happening while I was living with my brother that nobody even knew is from seventh grade to 10th grade, somewhere there, I was being molested by a family relative and never really told anybody because I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
If I was living with my mother, I probably could have told you something. I don't know. This was a family relative respected in the family who had a very good relationship with my brother.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also related to my sister-in-law. He didn't live there. He would come
Mm-hmm.
maybe once or twice a month. He worked for the customs, where he worked towards another part of Zimbabwe where there was fish. We loved fish in the home. He would come with fish and you'd be welcomed. There was always helping in the kitchen. But whenever you got a chance, he calculated exactly when everybody was having comfortable conversations over there and he would just move and nobody would suspect anything. And then he would come, he'd touch me in all kinds of places and stuff like that. Most of it would be in the kitchen and I cannot scream. I'm scared to scream. And how he would know that there's nobody. No one is in the room. I am in the room by myself. It's just me because we had a maid. So I remember one time he came to the school, to my school, and he was standing at the gate. I had my sister-in-law waiting for me at home, wanted to go to the doctor with one of the kids.
Mhm.
So she said, hurry back up to school so that you can stay with your nephew
Mhm.
and niece. I don't know how he knew that. Of course, they were related. So I probably said, yeah, I'm waiting for Leah to come home and stuff like that. I don't know. He came to the school and he said, hey, your sister-in-law told me to come pick you up so you can get home. It was about to rain. So I said, oh, okay. I believed him. I believed him because it was about to rain. My sister's waiting for me at home. So I got in the car. The moment I got into the car, doors were locked. And I'm seeing that they're going a different direction. They're not going home. And he took me to where his father lived, but his father wasn't there. I realized at that point I've been kidnapped. Yeah, I say, I need to go home because my sister-in-law is waiting for me. And he said, it's not going to be long. It's not going to be long. And I am screaming in the car. I'm trying to open the doors. This car is moving. So we got to the house and I am fighting not to get into the house, but he's strong. And then this man was also in the military before. I know that I'm going to defeat him, but I'm not stopping to fight. He threw me into the house and I said, no, I'm not going to lie down on this bed at all. And he's throwing me on the bed and I am screaming, I'm crying. The friend is sitting outside in the car.
So the friend knew that you were being kidnapped and did nothing to come in and help you.
Yeah, to this day, I know the name. I know the friend's name. And finally, I see the window was open. And then I jumped out the window. That think it was just God who just gave me the opportunity that because as strong as he was, he could have just raped me there. He could have just done anything. But I got out of the window and then my backpack was inside. I'm starting to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And where he lived from our house probably was about maybe an hour drive.
Mhm.
I am like, I'm going to walk on, but I'm not sure which direction I'm going. This friend was driving beside me and said, hey, get in the car. Get in the car. We'll take you home. I don't know if I'm going to even to survive these people. I'm scared now. My sister-in-law is waiting for me at home. So finally, I figured, okay, I don't even know the best way to go home now.
Mhm.
Let me just get into this car. I'm just quiet in that car. I'm crying. And I'm saying, I'm going to tell your sister.
Right.
He said, you don't talk about this. They're not going to believe you because we have a good relationship. So they're not going to believe you. And I know it was going to be hard. In my heart, I'm like, they're not going to believe me for sure. Because this is the person that they trust. So we got home. My sister-in-law already is not happy.
Right.
I am late. She is late. She finally went to the doctor. However, he created the story. He said, oh, we picked up Leah at school. It was raining. He fabricated the story about the car, the issue. That's why we were late. I couldn't say anything. I got in the house and they left. I never told anybody that story. That did not stop. That continued for another year or two. I don't think there is anything people would suspect that could be happening. So I don't think I had lines of communications with my sister-in-law or my brother to where I am comfortable talking about anything that could be happening. They never had those conversations.
I see.
Let me tell you, my brother was very strict. His strictness was out of love,
Sure.
wanting the best for his sister. For all his siblings, he wanted the best. So this is a brother who would not allow me to go have a sleepover. That was never allowed. Would not allow you just to go hang out with friends.
So he was doing his best to protect you. He certainly never suspected that this family member would do anything to you.
He did not allow anything that could influence his siblings to go a different way. But what he did not know was I was being violated while under that space of protection. But the protection I got from him being so strict, I realized later on in life that, oh, I'm grateful for that protection. When I was about to go to 11th grade,
Okay.
and my young brother was going to a boarding school. I was born in 1968. He was born in 1969.
Oh, wow. Very close.
So, yeah, we were like twins. And so he was going to a boarding school, and I said, I need to go. I cannot stay here because I felt like we were always together and we cannot be separated. And I felt if he would leave, I was more exposed to this man.
Right.
Even though my young brother didn't know this, I felt like he was my protection, my covering. I said, I am not going to stay here.
Yeah.
My parents were at the farm. The war had ended. At this time, there was a school that was rebuilt and there was a secondary school that was being built. It was different. Compared to what I was used to, the luxury was 10 to 1. But I did not care. All I wanted to be is away from this man, and I cannot be in this home. I'm not saying that things were bad in the home.
The situation and the fear that he could show up anytime and you'd be exposed to this and you're afraid to tell anyone, yeah, you wanted to get out.
I just could not stand it anymore. And having my brother leave would leave me vulnerable. That was in my head.
Sure.
So I said, no, I cannot go back. My older brother wasn't happy, even his wife. I said, I just want to go back home and live with mom and dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I registered at that school and I started school back there. And I never shared that part of my life with my parents at all, even my mother. I knew I could tell my mother, but how do I say it without hurting my mom? At the same time, I also wondered if she raises her voice, she's this African woman who is going to believe her. And it's going to create other issues. So I would rather not. So when I moved, I just closed that door and never opened that door again, kind of like it never existed.
That had to be difficult, though.
It was, but I was now living a new life. I was back with my parents, and I'm grateful for that because it was 2 years of high school living with my parents, experiencing the father's love, experiencing mother's love. I'm not saying that I was not experiencing love there. I was experiencing love, but these were my guardians.
Yeah.
It's a difference. I rode a bike to school. It was quite a distance that I had to ride the bike. I would wake up in the morning. My dad had already put the bike out of the house to make sure that it got air, the chain is oiled, just so that I can go to school. My mother would make sure that there is breakfast, there is tea, there is bread. That's where I experienced the love of a mother because when I left before, I was only 4th grade. Now I'm a teenager and I never experienced it that way.
Did you feel like you appreciated it more?
Yes.
Okay.
Father-daughter conversation because at the time it was just me. My younger brother is in boarding school. I'm the only child. I'm getting all this love. It was so beautiful. Those were just the most beautiful 2 years that I stayed with them where I was the only child. It defined my later years as a mother, as an adult. Like I said, we were raised in a Christian home, but there's a difference of knowing God for yourself. I remember my mom took me to this Easter revival for the first time. And I'm thinking, where are we going? We walked very long distance to get to this place. We got there. There was no building. And I thought, Mom, so where are we going? This place is where they were going to build a church. They were going to have an Easter revival there. It was a makeshift of a church. And they were sitting on logs, and the pulpit was made of some logs. Yeah, I'm a city girl. I'm looking, I'm like, this is so not good. I have this city life that I know, and here we are in a forest. And these other young people coming to this place. They have so much joy. They're singing hymns, they're singing praises. In my head, I'm like, what's good about this? The revival started on a Friday. And then it progressed into Saturday. People were not going to sleep. People were worshiping God. People were singing. I have some other youth talking to me in my head. I'm like, what time is this going to be done? We need to go. And my mom said, we're not leaving until Sunday. I started to see the joy that the youth had. They didn't look like they had as much as I had, but I'm starting to see something different. They have so much joy. The preaching continues, worship continues. That night, the gospel started to really hit me hard. Something was just starting to warm my heart to where I was saying, I want whatever they have. Some of them, they don't have shoes. They don't have clothes that look like mine. But they was just so happy and they're praising God. And I felt my heart changing. I remember the preacher saying, if you want to give your heart to Jesus, this is the moment. I found myself in front of the pulpit. But this is a pulpit that was made of logs. I remember the dress I was wearing to this day, and I was weeping. And I remember all these youth coming around and just praying for me. My mom was there. After that was done, I sat back down, but I was feeling different. I'm so connected with these youth, and these adults are just loving. Not that fake love. Now I'm connected. I'm no longer disengaged. I'm somehow connected. But let me tell you, I had friends. We're just friends because we considered ourselves rich. So I hung out with the cool girls. We were a group of 3 girls. I think I was the ringleader because I was coming from the city. We had new bikes. We had complete uniforms. We were just cool. Those were my friends back home. I remember it was time to give testimonies before we leave this place. I stood up. I gave my life to Christ. I surrendered. I loved everybody so much and they loved me. I did not want to leave, but it was time to go. So we went back home. I'm telling my mama, thank you. Thank you so much. So the following Monday, it was Easter Monday, but Tuesday I went to school. I couldn't hang out with my friends anymore. And I was so heartbroken. These were my friends, and I couldn't hang out with my cool friends anymore.
Did it feel too shallow, or why did you not want to hang out with them anymore?
God just changed me so much that I no longer had anything in common with my friends. Nothing. Our conversations were different. And I started to separate myself from that. And I now had these new friends. And I remember my best friend, she was so on fire for God. And we would go to pray in the nearest mountain during lunchtime at school.
Wow.
Instead of having fun and be cool on the school campus, we'll go down to pray. Most of the time, she came to school with no shoes, but that was my best friend.
Right.
My cool girls, we had shoes, everything, but I couldn't do it anymore. And that's when I realized that when you are chosen Christ, you're a new creation. Your old ways are gone. At the end, everybody went their own way. One friend, she passed away with AIDS, and the other one got married. I wish my friends could have experienced what I had experienced because we became strangers. We're no longer on the same path in the Christian faith. I was still learning. I did not get to witness to them. So my 11 and 12 grade was the path of knowing more about God. But one thing that I did not do was to address the challenges that I had before, the molestation. I never got to address that. But when I realized not addressing or facing that, did not mean that that did not exist. It was there somewhere in a corner, and there was going to be a time that was going to come out. So I enjoyed being part of the church in a deeper way, and I was involved in the youth and served when I finished high school, attended college in the city. Still, I was very much in love with God. I remember my sister got married. She was traditionally married. There's 2 parts to getting married in Africa. Right? Traditionally, you pay the dowry and everything else, and then you move with your husband. That is considered legal. You're free to go as long as the dowry is paid. So my sister had done that part. Some years into their marriage, they wanted to have a wedding, and I was in the wedding.
Okay.
So I met a boy who was in the wedding. We ended up being paired together because we didn't know the dance. He was a cute guy, and here I am. I'm still a new Christian, but I saw this guy is really cute, and we're dancing, we're talking. But he was also a cousin to my brother-in-law who had married my sister. So they have the same last name. So we started dating. But then I was like, you just became a Christian. We cannot be in a relationship. So I dated here back and forth for over a period of 4 years. Every time we meet, he was like, I want to marry you. I said, no, we can't. I have to go to school. But at the same time, I was scared. I said, we cannot be married because you are my brother-in-law's cousin. But he was always like, I want to marry you. I said, no, we cannot. So finally, we went separate ways and he started another relationship. And I started another relationship. I was in my 20s at that time. I think I was 22. I met this pastor who had come to Zimbabwe as a missionary. He was co-pastoring one of the churches where my brother attended. And so this pastor came to officiate the wedding that I was a maid of honor. My best friend was getting married. We started talking and we started dating. He was 10 years older than me. We were both Christians. I said, okay, this is great. We're in the same church or a pastor. Yeah, like I'm going to be dating somebody whom I know that they believe in God. He is a powerful preacher, loves God, and that's what I want. I want something like that. And so 2 years later, he said, I have to go back to US because my contract has ended. I didn't know much about the contract and all that. He said, but I'm going to come back and marry you. I said, okay. So everything just happened fast after that. We came to Zimbabwe in 95. And his family said, okay, no problem. He is from a different culture, but we're still going to honor our culture. He's going to pay the dowry before he marries you. And he was fine with that. He came on a Friday. Dowry was paid on a Saturday. Sunday, we had a wedding. And so got married in November. Culturally, for some reason, weddings and lobola should not happen in November. But anyway, they gave room for him to be able to do that. So, okay, we got married. In this relationship, I want to point out something that I noticed that was a little off, but I did not pay much attention to it because I thought, well, it's just different cultures. He really had some anger. I had an excuse for all that. And at the same time, I was 25. I had put a time limit. I said, by 25, I should be married. God, you answer prayers. This is what I want. I'm ready to get married at 25. And here. I don't know who told me that marriage is an accomplishment. And I overlooked every other thing that came with this man for me to achieve this goal. I said, well, I'm going to change him. He can be mean, but I'll change him. I'm a good Christian woman. Who would not want to have a wife like me? And I would say that to myself. But he was very abusive from day one. He talked very disrespectfully. He would hit me. I would not tell my family. My mother had passed away in 1990. And so this was in 1995. My dad was at the wedding and I was told that he noticed that something was not right with this man.
Was that told to you before you got married or afterward?
After we got married, something wasn't right and he didn't like the way he was talking to me. He noticed that. Soon after the wedding, my dad left for the farm. I just thought he was ready to go back to the farm. So anyway, I remember soon after the wedding, he was just so mean and he would hit me. And I said, why would you do that? Why would you treat me like that? And he would just say, you're stupid. And he would call me all kinds of names that I cannot repeat. I was confused. This is a Christian man.
And this is a missionary.
This is a missionary. And so he said, I'm not going to take you to the United States. I want you to stay here. I said, okay, I'll stay here in Zimbabwe. I said, that's fine. My dad is already gone back to the farm. So my brothers are now in charge. That's very typical of an African home. Brothers who assume the responsibility of everybody.
Okay.
And I told you I have 5 brothers.
That's right.
And so my bags are rolled in, ready to go. We said, well, I'm not going to take her to the United States. I wanted her to stay and I'll come back and get her. I remember my brother saying, that's not how we do it in our culture. You marry, you had a wedding, that's your wife. And so he was not happy about that. And we ended up having to go together. And he was so upset. So now I'm scared of this man. I'm intimidated. I'm like, what did I get myself into? I feel like I don't have a voice. I cannot be heard.
Right.
There's a person who knows how to speak with authority because he's a pastor. There's a man who was in the military and I am scared. So anyway, we started preparing to come to the United States, all the doctor appointment that needed to be done and all those things for me to be clear to come to the United States. I'm just following him. I don't know how these things are done. That's what's needed by the consulate and all that. So we flew to the United States in the beginning of December 1995. And this man was very, very abusive. He would hit me, call me names. Sometimes he would have some friends come over and he said, if you see us going into the bedroom, do not come there because we will be praying.
Back up, Sister Leah. When he would have his friends come over to the house, he would tell you, if I have friends over and if we're going into the bedroom, we are in here praying, do not come in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Continue.
And here I'm thinking, this was a pastor. He had gotten a job with the hospital in Atlanta as a chaplain. And so some of his friends were from the hospital. That's what he told me. They worked together as chaplain hospital. So if they would come to visit, they'll be praying. That's what they do. They pray for people. I didn't think anything about that. I just want to go back home. And he said, I married you. I bought you. You are mine. I can do anything that I want. I remember one day he picked up a bowl of candy that was on the table. He said, you're just like my bowl of candy right here that's sitting on the table. I can move it from here to there and I can throw it. I can smash it. And he smashed the bowl. This is the only person I know here. It became very, very difficult. I said, I don't want you to have any children because you're not good enough. You're stupid, all kinds of things. So I said, I need to get a job. I can do office work. I know how to do that. And it doesn't matter where I am. I can do it because if any country speaks English, I can work anywhere. And he said, okay, I'll take you to where you can apply for a job. He took me to McDonald's and he said, go in there and ask if they're hiring. I didn't know anything about McDonald's. This is new to me. Anyway, I'm happy to be out of the house.
Right.
So I applied for the job. I got the job. Thank God the people who owned that particular McDonald's were Christians. I started working and he would make sure that he would come and pick my paycheck. One day it was really freezing, but the bus was operating. He said, you have to go to work. He was not even going to work himself. I walked to the bus. I waited for the bus for the longest and my hands were frozen. I got in the bus and she said, where are you going, ma'am? I said, to McDonald's. I am going to work. Said, McDonald's is closed. Got home. I was so cold. I remember him saying, turn off the heat when I got home. I realized that people can survive some challenges that you think that could kill you.
Sister Leah, he didn't allow you to have heat in your home. When you were in there, you had to turn the heat off?
Yes. He turned it off. And there was another guy that we lived with. He was from Zimbabwe. He was taken care of. So he said, hey, go turn off the heat. And this guy really felt sorry for me in many ways. And sometimes he would ask, why are you doing that to Leah? But he was also scared of him. I would try the very best to be a wife, but it was not appreciated. I was giving, but it was not being received. Honestly, did not know what to do. So we had to go to Christmas and I was going to meet his family. His family was from Alabama. We went to Alabama for Christmas. He had a wonderful family, loving family. His mom was so happy that he was married, but the sisters had questions about that. The mom, she took me to her basement and she's this woman who just have stuff. She'll buy stuff and put in the basement. And she said, pick whatever you want for my daughter-in-law. I would just get whatever I wanted. And she said, does he treat you well? He had already told me, going to pretend like everything is good. If they ask you if I hit you, you say no. So I said, no, he doesn't. And he said, okay, good. The sisters, they were sitting with me, and I think they could see that I was tensed up. And they asked, hey, does he treat you well? Does he talk to you with respect? And I said, yeah, he does. When he noticed that I was talking to his sisters, he did not like it. He came and pulled me out of there. But before he did that, the sisters, they said, well, if he ever hits you, you call me, you call her. They gave me their numbers and they gave me 911. I didn't know what that was, but I kept the numbers. So which one do you think I remembered well?
911.
He ended up having an argument with his sisters that day about how he was talking to me. He said, we have to leave. I don't want people who get into my business. This is an African woman. The sisters, they said, I don't know what culture you are talking about African, but they do respect their wife. However, if they don't, you were raised here. And he did not like that. So we ended up having to leave. I got used to slaps. One time he hit me at the store. He would just hit me. People saw this man hit me. People looked and continued.
Said nothing, did nothing.
I went outside the store and then I sat on the pavement. Police stopped by and said, are you okay? I said, yes, I'm okay. I'm waiting on my husband who's inside. I was just surprised that he would do that in an open store and nobody said anything. I felt embarrassed. Every time when you do something, he's going to buy flowers, he's going to buy jewelry, he's just going to flatter you. I would take that for peace, whatever amount of time we can have and it's peaceful, I would take that.
Okay.
I would not throw back the flowers. I didn't care for the flowers. I didn't care for jewelry. That was the pattern. My family back home could tell that something was off. And they were making arrangements to get me out through the embassy. And when I'm speaking on the phone, I had to speak in English so that he knows what I'm saying. So there was never a time I could speak in our native language. It got to a point where when I was talking to them, I couldn't continue to talk anymore because my brain just couldn't think. So they could tell something was wrong over there. When I would have a chance to talk on the phone, I would tell them. They were trying very carefully to get me out. One day, he hit me and I'm trying to get the phone. I'm done. I'm so tired. I could not remember the sister's phone numbers. This 911, I got it. I didn't know what that was, to be honest. I was rushing to the phone and I'm crying and I'm trying to dial and I'm missing. He said, "Who are you calling?" I said, "I'm calling 911. He jumped and he pulled the phone off the wall. He said, "Do you know who you're calling? You're calling the authorities on your husband. Who's going to take care of you? I'm your husband. You don't do that. You're an African woman." He hit me again after that. He said, "You've become so Americanized that going to work has changed you." He didn't think that was his sisters. He said, "You know what? You're catching the next British Air going back home." I said, "Okay."
Wow. So he was the one that actually put you on the plane back home, even though your family was already trying to make arrangements to get you back home.
I remember him saying, "Do you know that I can cut up your body and throw you in the river and nobody's going to know?" I still had to go to work the following day. I went to work and I was crying. The manager asked me, "What is wrong? What's happening?" I said, "My husband hits me at home." I was just open with everything at that time. The manager and his wife said, "I'm sorry this is happening to you. You deserve better. We can get you out of that house today and have you stay at a shelter for abused women and we can get you there." And I said, "I can't leave my husband." He said, "Well, we want you to know this. You can leave him, but it has to be a choice. We can't force you to do that. But can we also tell you something, Leah? We see something different about your husband." I said, "What?" He said, "He is gay." I said, "What does that mean?" I had no clue, to be honest. This was early 1996. I had never heard of anything like that.
You never heard the term gay?
Oh,
You were how old?
I was 25.
Okay. So you never come across a gay person or that was outwardly gay at home?
I've never even known that it exists. The word gay in British, it means happy person.
But you had read the Bible and you knew about Sodom and
Never
Gomorrah.
came across that. It was preached. I never paid attention. I said, "Oh, no." He said, "We know people like that, even if they are undercover and your husband is undercover." We're born and raised in this country, in America. My problem too is sometimes when I hear something, I don't process right away.
Okay.
I take a little bit of time and then I start processing later. I started to process how he sometimes speaks. His voice was so squeaky like a girl.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have these mannerisms of a woman. And I started to pay attention.
Okay.
He probably is a woman in a man's body. He has these friends who come to the house and they say they'll be praying, "Don't come into the room." And I already married this man. So I went home. Guess what I did? I asked him, "Are you gay?"
You asked him to his face.
Yes.
You were not worried about whether he slapped you or hit you. You just wanted to know.
Well, I didn't think that it was a bad thing because if this is the life he was living, then you might as well ask and let him tell me that this is it. Because if this is normal in this culture, then it should be normal for him to tell me. So I asked it. He was angry. He said, "Who told you that? That McDonald's have influenced you, he has changed you from an African woman to an American woman. It's so Americanized. No more going to McDonald's. While we are waiting for you to catch the next plane, no, you can't go to work anymore." Well, I didn't care because I wasn't even getting the money. They will take the money. So anyway, he called one of my brothers and told him that your sister will be catching the British Airways very soon. She has become very disrespectful, very Americanized. She doesn't respect me. My brother knew what was happening. He only said, "Okay, so when is she coming?" And he did not like that response. It took about 2 weeks before I got on the plane. He made sure that I stayed inside the house. There was no food. Whatever was there in the house before all this happened, that's all what I had to eat. There was some cornbread mix in the pantry. I would make cornbread and just make tea. I would just eat so that I could survive. I was not allowed to watch TV because I guess that's where some of the influences were coming from. But there was, those cassette radios, and there was a cassette that was in there.
Mm-hmm.
There was an African singer, her name was Rebecca Malope, and he played this one song. It just so happened that that song was in that cassette player. And I would play that all the time. And it said, I'm going to be free one day. And it's a gospel song. So I'll be free someday. And it repeated that. I just played because I just wanted to hear something. It also connected me with home. He wrote in one day with this new suitcase. He said, pack your stuff. You're catching the plane tomorrow. I'm going home. But I started to feel so embarrassed. I just got married 4 months ago and I'm going home. This is fake. But I'm just happy to go home. It was no longer that whole family there to see me off with my husband going to the States. This time it was just my brother. I got there. My husband was still in control. He was still controlling. I'm still married to him. I started to gather myself. There is no therapy or anything else. I'm just trying to figure out things for myself. I got in a place to stay and he was still taking care of that. He said, you're my wife. I take care of you. I feel like I'm still controlled by a person who's not even here. And then so at one point he came to Zimbabwe. We did not stay together. He bought an apartment. The guys who were in our wedding, he was living with those guys in his apartment. And so it started to become clear that this is the lifestyle he was about. I said, if that is it, then let it be. You can go your own way. I don't have to fight for that. I had two brothers who worked for the Ministry of Justice. So it was easy to find out how to get my divorce started. And they said, okay, we can send the papers. We need to know where he's living. We found out where I think he was never there to sign these papers. I want to move on. So I remember going to the American Embassy and talked to the consul. I said, this is the situation. This is who he is. I had no idea. He said, I'm so sorry. You should have called the police. You should have stayed in America and let the authorities know the situation that was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
They could have rescued you, also held him to task. Like, this is not what you do. He was very upfront and he was not happy.
Okay.
He said, now you're an American resident. You can go back to America. You can go back because he married you.
Okay.
But it's entirely up to you. We can help you if you want to go back. He started to explain the document and what I should have done. I said, no, I want to divorce. And he said, you can. But then if you cannot find him, if he's not there to sign the papers, there's nothing much we can do on this end, but we can get better help when you're in the United States.
Okay.
I said, okay, I just want to move on. I don't know what type of moving on I was thinking about, but I want to move on. I feel like I'm still tied to this man.
Okay.
One day, my sister's brother-in-law passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the funeral with my sister to bury this brother-in-law. At that funeral, I saw that cousin, which is that boy whom I dated back and forth for over a period of 4 years.
Yeah.
We had this funeral. It was the first time to meet again after a long time. We were telling each other stories like, okay, let me tell you what's happening to me. And he said, let me tell you what happened to me. And he told me about his relationship that was ending. And I'm telling him about my relationship, but I'm still married. We fell in love again. And I am so scared at that point. He said, I told you I wanted to marry you, but you ran away with the American boy. And I'm feeling bad. He even shed tears that I wanted to marry you. But at the same time, I say to myself, I don't want to get married. I never wanted to be in a marriage for a second time. I'm loving my boyfriend and we are in love. And you know what? I got pregnant, but I'm still married. At this point, I'm scared. I think I'll be safer if I'm in America because this guy, if he finds out, he's going to just go crazy.
Right.
And so I started preparing to come back to the United States. And I told my boyfriend, well, I'm going to the United States. It's good for me to go there and I will come back. Because at this point, I didn't want him to come. I already said, I don't intend to be in a marriage again. But we were so much in love.
Mm-hmm.
I came to the United States. And somehow my husband found out that I was pregnant, but I was already here. You know, people talk. He promised to kill everybody in my family. Promised to fly to the United States and kill me. And I was so scared. When I came back to the United States, I was doing some cleaning in the house in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I saw a letter that my husband at the time in region, and he said, I heard that Leah is pregnant. I'm going to kill her, but I'm going to do it carefully that he's not going to know. And I saw this letter.
Your husband at the time had written a letter to the person that you were living with?
I was living with, yes.
And so he was friendly with your husband at
Yes.
the time. And your husband at the time said, I plan to kill her, but I'm going to just be very careful about it.
Yes, because I found out from Leah's sister that she is pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
When I read that letter, I was scared.
Of course.
And I said, no, I have to leave Atlanta. By the grace of God, I found out about my cousin who lived in Texas. And she said, our house is full, but we'll always make room. You're not going to be on the street. So I flew from Atlanta and came to Dallas. And that's how I ended up in Dallas. I was about 6 months pregnant at the time. Stayed with my cousin for about 2 months, and she helped me get back on my feet. I found an apartment. I wanted to be out so that my cousin is safe. Every single day, praying 5 o'clock in the morning, God protect me and this baby. I was 6 months pregnant, and I was working at Walmart. And I'm still communicating with my boyfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I developed high blood pressure because of the stress. And I ended up in hospital at 7 months. I felt safe in the hospital, but my blood pressure kept on rising. I didn't share with my family back home that I was pregnant, except my sister who knew it. My boyfriend, he knew, and he helped me raise money to come here to the States, and he was very supportive. And I knew at that point, this is the man I was supposed to marry back then. Finally, at 8 months, they induced me, and I had the baby. I gave him the name Joshua Tinashe. And Tinashe means God is with us. And I felt like God protected us from this situation of being killed because I was so afraid.
Yeah.
My boyfriend at that time, he came 3 months after the baby was born. So our family is complete now, but I'm still married. January 98. My cousin called me and he said, did you hear my husband at the time, he had died? And I said, no, I do not know. So his sister called me and said, I called to tell you that he died, and he died of AIDS. I said, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry to hear that. And the sister said, he's been sick for a long time. This person was threatening me all this time. In my head, after you telling me that I'm being threatened by somebody who was in hospital.
Oh my gosh. So he was saying all these things he was going to do to you, but he was on his deathbed.
He was on his deathbed. HIV positive, and he was diagnosed way before we got married.
He got married to you knowing that he was HIV positive.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I imagine because you had just been in the hospital, just had the baby, that you all had been tested to confirm that you were fine. Is that right?
Yes. I was already pregnant before all these tests were done. I didn't know this man was HIV positive. I did not process that right away.
Yeah.
My sister, if there is a moment in my life where my mind freezes, is that time. How is that even possible? I have 3 children. I'm healthy. We're healthy. My boyfriend is healthy. My husband at the time ended up dying in Zimbabwe. How he loved this country. He wanted to live in Zimbabwe so he can have this life. And I'm assuming that he didn't want his family to know his lifestyle.
But his family knew that he was an abusive person, which is why they warned you and gave you their phone numbers. But did they know of his sexuality?
I think they did.
They suspect.
Probably. I don't know because we never had talked about that.
Sister Leah, when you all were married and living in Atlanta, he also was most likely having some sort of relations with people that he was inviting over for quote unquote Bible study in his room, knowing full well that he was HIV positive.
Well, for sure. He knew one time he went on a mission trip to Haiti, and people who had that type of disease, HIV, they had to be very careful where they go. So he went on a mission trip to Haiti, and he came back very sick, very sick. He went to the doctor, and he would not allow me to be in the same room with the doctor. He had diarrhea. Here I'm the wife, I'm like, let me help clean, and he would not let me do it. He would protect me in an angry way, like, don't do it, you stupid, stay away, and I wouldn't do it. I remember he was going to the restroom, and he was just messing himself up on his way to the restroom. And he would not allow me to clean. Talking of a God who protects.
Wow. So he didn't actually want you to touch his fecal matter because he knew it was most likely contaminated with the disease.
Yes.
So that's good.
And then he would take all kind of medication. He said, I'm asthmatic. When I find out that he was HIV positive, and I remember how much medication he was taking, because one day when he had hit me and I was so done with life, I said, I just want to take myself out. And I tried to take the medication. I locked myself in the bathroom. He was hitting this door, and somehow he managed to open it before I took the medication. So he became my lifesaver. I look back and I said, I can only be God. Anyway, so the end of it was he died. At the time I was trying to get the divorce, I had a lawyer in Zimbabwe. I went back home.
Okay.
His sister had come to Zimbabwe to collect his ashes. They had already put on the death certificate that he was divorced.
Really?
Yes. My brother was the master of the high court, and every file of the person who passed away would come through his office, and he saw this file and he say, wait a minute, this man is still married to my sister, and this says he's divorced. They were not divorced. My brother said, you need to come and take care of this. We thought that you were used, and you need to come and take care of this situation here. At that time, the sister was trying to go back and said, you can go with the ashes, that's fine. But this has to be on hold because there was no divorce.
Okay. Why did he feel the need to get married?
I didn't know this man. I knew the preacher. So I remember he hit me one day. I said, you are a man of God. You preach the gospel. He said, I preach the gospel because that's what people want to hear, but I don't believe in it.
Wow.
That threw me off. I hated preachers, but I never was against God. God really spoke to me as he was healing me slowly but surely. Like he's just another human being. And the enemy is like a roaring lion looking for who to devour. And he just was one of those. That's my child. Anyone can fall victim to anything. Pastor, a bishop, president, no one is immune to sin. But we have to protect our hearts.
Yeah.
By knowing him fully. I forgive him for myself.
Right.
For my peace, so that I can close that door.
Right.
I'm now in this new life. I have a child. Now I have this boyfriend. And I'm like, this is not the life that I want. Live with a boyfriend? Whose child am I? They taught me well, and I'm a believer. We're coming from relationships that were really painful. Thank the Lord, we became part of a church that really cared for people. The pastor was wonderful. The congregation was great. We were the only Black family in there. They made us so comfortable that we didn't see that we were different. My boyfriend, he had sent the dowry back home. So at that point, we were considered husband and wife in our culture. I remember we have challenges. We ended up in the pastor's office for counseling. The pastor asked me, tell me about your life back home growing up. I'm excited. I said, okay, let me tell you about Zimbabwe and how I grew up. And then for the first time, I'm plunged. I talked about the molestation, the sexual abuse. I couldn't continue with the conversation. And he said, Leah, let's start from there. We connected to other people who had gone through that and they had healed. And I was in a Bible study with older women. And I started to open up about my challenges growing up. The women are older. They were all white. But challenges don't see any color, okay?
That's right.
Cultures may create stuff, but these women were wonderful. We finally got married at our church. Pastor married us. He said, I've never done this before. We are going to have your wedding on Sunday, soon after church. I'm going to marry. So we had our wedding at church that day. Now we had 2 kids at the time, and it was beautiful. But still, it was on a journey of healing. I started to address the challenges. And let me tell you what molestation does to anybody who has been sexually abused or whatever you've been violated. What it does, it makes you mature. It makes you a woman before you get there. You start being very scared about it when it's happening. And then you start becoming just comfortable with it.
Comfortable with fear?
You become comfortable with the molestation and everything that's happening because it has happened so much. You don't know that until you get to the other side.
I see. Okay.
You're looking back and see what was taken away from you and what did it do to you and how did it happen. You start to look at those things and say, I don't want that to happen to anybody. I don't want it to happen to my children. In 2003, Sheila was in a group of women traveling from state to state, preaching the gospel to women. But I wasn't going. I had a young baby. My husband came from work and he said, Leah, can you dress up? Are we going somewhere? And I said, where are we going? He said, just dress up. Make sure you look good. He drove straight to the American Airlines where the Women of Faith conference was happening. He said, Leah, here, he gave me the money. He said, go to the ticket booth and tell them that you want a ticket. I said, there are no more tickets. I said, anyway, just be obedient, just go. I got there. tickets are sold out. I'm walking back to the car to tell my husband that it's sold out. And then the lady said, hey, come back. I went back and she said, the moment you just walked away, this lady came and she said, I have a VIP ticket. Can you give it to anybody who wants it? They are free to go in. So here's your ticket. To my husband, hey, I got a ticket. I got to go. He said, okay, enjoy the conference. Call me when you're done. I have this VIP ticket. I'm hearing this lady and she's saying for every woman who was working through the day to make sure that the kids are fed, the dinner is on the table. They've been planning all this time to be at this conference. You have made it. This is the day that the Lord has made. And I want to welcome you into this conference, Irreplaceable Hope. I'm being escorted to my VIP booth. You really get a VIP treatment. I guess it was a booth where a group of women were going to come, but none of them came. I don't know, but it was just meant for me. I'm not understanding all this happening. Then she just brought me some water. American Airlines is full. Where I am, I can just see everything happen. This is really VIP. And Sheila Walsh's testimony just hit me so hard. She was educated. She was also an anchor on CBN, but she was feeling empty inside because as she was growing up, her dad, he was an alcoholic and abusive to the mother. She wanted her dad to see her dance because she loved to dance. She was a ballerina. Her dad would be so drunk. She grew up in the abuse, and one time she just wanted to take her life. She stood on a bridge and then she wanted to take her own life. She felt that God was saying, I see you, you're my princess. From then, she continued to dance for God. I felt like God saw me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like God saw me and he welcomed me to this conference.
Yeah.
I felt so valued. I said, God, you see me. Tears streaming. I told myself, I know I haven't shared it with anybody about the abuse. The freedom was there, but there still was a blockage. When I sat in that arena that day, hearing Sheila Walsh's story, I was set free. And I said, I know there are so many girls who have stories, and I want to be able to share my story. I don't know how. She has given me something for me to know that I'm a daughter of a king. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It doesn't matter what has been done to me. The freedom was mine. Now, the task ahead is how am I going to tell the world about my experience without blaming? When I realized I wanted to tell girls that they're a daughter of a king and then let them know that if somebody touches them this way, even if it's a family member, even if it's a friend, it's a teacher, anyone, they tell someone. I found that opportunity to be able to do that. I started sharing that with girls in my community where we live. I would have princess parties in our home and we preach the gospel in there, but also to make them aware that they can be violated. If you tell someone they don't do something, tell another person. 2007, I started sharing that with kids in our home. And then in 2014, God called me to start that ministry. And it was called Set Apart. I would have princess parties where every child would get a tiara. The tiara represented who they are in the kingdom. We should walk as so our Father is a king. He is a father to the fatherless. Those gatherings helped some girls to open up who would have situations where we would even have to call CPS when something is happening so that children are set free. And so that has been my mission for a long time.
What's the name of your nonprofit, Sister Leah?
It's called Set Apart Global Ministries. Now we meet girls and boys from all different backgrounds. We talk about who we are in Christ. Not only talking about being molested, we just use everything in life to take opportunity to share the gospel at the level that they understand, in the language that they understand, to be available to the kids so that they can open up and share whatever could be happening, whether good or bad. I am doing this ministry merely because of my past. And so I wanted to tell my family when I shared that my family met in Zimbabwe, but I was not there. So I sent the message that this is what it is. This is what happened. It was received with different reactions and it surprised me.
What do you mean? What type of reactions?
People didn't believe that I was telling the truth. Some of them did not say anything. And the ones that I expected to say something did not say anything. One brother, very upset, very upset. And this one brother, he said, this is not good. And he called this man. This man is still alive. He said, we have to fight this man. Started when I was 13 until I was 15. I told my family when I was in my late 40s. There was a lot of buzz going on in the family. And it really broke my heart. Don't get me wrong. I think my siblings love me. I think they love me, but we just don't know how to handle the truth.
Yeah, right.
Then I also realized that's why it is so important to talk about this. Because even when people don't want to handle the truth, your truth remains.
That's right.
If it's true, stick to the truth. You don't need the whole world to be on your side for your truth to be heard. God knows your truth. That's why it is important to carry on with this ministry. I choose not to be silenced. My husband was very, very supportive, and that's all I needed. He also was angry because this is also the truth that he didn't know until we were in this church.
Really?
He stood by my side to support me, and I started to trust God even more. But I love my siblings no matter what. That's the things that people cannot handle, even if it's family.
You know what? Even if they cannot handle it, thank God you told the truth, because some people need their eyes to be opened up and to know that things are possible. And that way they can look out for the next generation, regardless whether or not they believed it. I tend to think people do believe those kinds of things, but it's just hard for them to process. And so when they're emotionally immature, the easiest thing to say is, well, that didn't happen.
But the beauty of that is one of my nieces, she said, Auntie, thank you for sharing that because it happened to me. Not by the same guy, but it happened to me when I was younger. But I don't want everybody to know. And I say, that's good that you are telling me.
Yes.
It's freedom. That's what's more important. Your freedom.
Your freedom. The beautiful thing that came out of this horrible thing is that you were able to be there for other young people. You were able to mentor other young people to prevent these things, hopefully. But if not, to give them a voice, give them an ear to listen to their troubles. The only way things like this stop is if we bring them to light.
And the enemy finds ways and means of coming in and creates division. If you have an issue with another one in the family, it shouldn't be all of us getting against one person. He wants to destroy families. We can fall victim to that if we miss knowing who created family. I've learned not to push myself towards creating that relationship. If it is not mutual, I love my siblings. Love does not go away. I lost some of them back to back recently. Most of my siblings are deceased, to include my youngest brother, whom I still grieve because we were together for a long time. He was in the hospital during COVID 2021, and he passed away. None of them were old. I've dealt with loss to the point where I stayed inside the house for 2 years. I did not do ministry. I didn't do anything. Nothing mattered. There were some women who really would pour into me to the point that I finally realized that I have to get up. Some people who are depressed, sometimes don't know they're depressed. But I started to thank God for the opportunity that I had to share some truth with my siblings.
Right.
God was there and he understood. And I had to go through that so that I can find myself. God is rewriting some things and redirecting me in many ways. I can see there's so many things that he is writing and putting together. Because I want to continue to be the light, but at the same time, not change who I am. I want to be loyal to the one who sustains me, following what God has for me in life, and who God allows me to meet in life, like meeting you, my sister. It's a blessing, and I'm grateful for that.
Sister Leah, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm so appreciative. Your level of vulnerability was just unmatched. You certainly blessed me today, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on Bernitha Rena Relates. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and God bless you.
Thank you, Leah, for reminding us that wherever life takes you, you're never truly alone. Because no matter the language, the people, or the land, God remains the same. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at @BernithaRenaRelates and on Facebook at Bernitha Rena Relates. And of course, like, subscribe, and share this podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast. Thanks for listening. I love you for it. We'll talk soon.
What's been done is done again. Same old story, different pen. Yeah. We love, we make mistakes, trying to learn from what life takes. We love, we make mistakes, trying to learn from